Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How goes it, Joshua?
Yeah, it goes all right. I'm just seeing Homer's comment there saying, I was in two minds about watching this. Feel like I need a 2-week break from Rangers. It's that bad. And obviously we have to come up with some interesting, fresh talking points every morning. So, yeah, we're going to do a little bit more looking back before we do some looking forward. But I'm fine, thank you. I'm all well.
Yeah, good stuff. Sorry we're slightly late, folks. A few technical issues. The old Windows update had reared its ugly head. But we're in business and we're here to talk things Rangers, whether you like it or not. And yeah, I think we could all do with a 2-week break, in all honesty. But here we go anyway. There's a great piece on the website this morning. You'll find from Joshua just on, it was on yesterday, of course, on the anatomy of Rangers' recent Old Firm defeat and how Philip Clement shaped up, the tactics, the style of play, and what went wrong. Joshua, you've watched the game back. I did not envy you in the slightest. And yeah, what did you find here? It looked to me, just from the naked eye, that the manager isn't learning from his mistakes in previous Old Firm matches.
Yeah, well, we said after the podcast on Sunday, Derek, that we'd done, in the last 2-3 years of this podcast, about 10, 11, 12 probably, Old Firm, kind of dissecting what went wrong and looking at the overall picture. And I've certainly written a few of these pieces in my time as well, looking at how Rangers were defeated at Parkhead. In short, I think that is a pretty fair criticism about Clement not learning from his from his previous mistakes. Now he will point to certain things which we can get into. I don't think it's as black and white. A lot of the debate about Clement's style of play is it's just the number 10's issue. It's just this. Beyond anything formation-wise, Derek, I think the core issue is it's about the dynamics of the team. So we spoke, Johnny, Chris and I did a preview podcast where we spoke about how do Rangers stop Celtic, and I think the headline was something about Callum McGregor and his influence in this fixture. It's not as simple as just, for example, man-marking him, because if you watch that game back, if you look at how Celtic play, if you are man-marking them in these rotations, and a lot of the piece looks at this, they know how to still get their players on the ball. The core issue, and we can get into lots of different specifics, what people want to talk about this morning. The core issue for me, Derek, is you see, if you look at the Celtics' first goal on Sunday, which was scored by Maeda, it's a quick throw-in, rotations down the side, different players fulfilling different roles, and a cross, a cut back to the back post where a wide forward finishes. If you compare and contrast that to the first goal that Celtic scored in a 4-0 Old Firm win 2 years ago, and it was Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's last one. You'll remember it was the game where Rangers were really slow from restarts, and Van Bronckhorst went a bit mental at the side of the pitch. It's almost a copy and paste from the other side of the pitch. A quick throw in, a rotation down the side, a midfielder running beyond, a cross to the back post, and a cut back and a goal. Again, it really ties in for me to this conversation of who has been here over the last 3-4 years from a Rangers point of view, who was there involved at the club in a leadership point of view, from a football leadership point of view, watching that game 2 years ago compared to now. Those lessons haven't been learned, and therefore Rangers, I think, going with a not dissimilar approach, largely a man-marking job that can look fine when you're high and you're aggressive and you press up the pitch, and it did for the first 10 minutes, but as soon as it's broken, you're in danger. I think the only time it's really worked, Derek, this approach against this variation of the Celtic side, and obviously they've had Postecoglou and Rodgers, but in Old Firm games, I think the product's pretty similar. They play in a pretty similar fashion. I think it's only really worked when Rangers have had Calvin Bassey. So if you look at, for example, the offside goal that Kyogo scores, when that press is broken by Celtic, Rangers they don't have anyone covering that space in front of the defence. And when you're man marking, when you're pushing everyone up, you need a centre back to jump up as well. Now, Robin Proper can do that, but you can't do that at the pace that Kyogo's going to drop in, for example, especially when he's not got pace alongside him. So is it something we've seen before? Is Clement not learning? I think there is fair criticism in that. But again, more generally, you look at the overall context of how can it be that Rangers were losing this game with similar tactics 2 years ago under a different manager before they pivot back to a different style of play and recruit to a different style of play. and do it again this summer. And that is the overall feeling that I think is important to mention as well. Yes, Clement has questions to answer in this fixture, and he now has 5 games without a win. But there's wider issues at play that I think have led Rangers here to not only be losing games in this fashion 2 years ago, but the same thing be happening again with the contrast in that Abada goal compared to the Maeda goal that Celtic opened the game with on Sunday as well. That can't be happening, but it very much is.
Yep. I mean, it's not just the Old Firm game. Fans are asking what they're watching here, what the manager's trying to do. I think we'll begin coming up for 12 months in the job. Is it the end of October or November time? So we're now looking at his first anniversary at the helm, and have Rangers improved on last year? And I think quite legitimately supporters are asking what we're trying to do here, Joshua. What is he trying to do? Does he have the personnel to play how he wants to play? Does he have to sort of swallow a bit of pride and change things?
Well, I think, again, let's look at the McGregor situation from the game at the weekend. Dessers works hard, but you've now seen 4 or 5 Old Firm games under Clement, where I think because of this approach, because of what they tried to do, the man marking they tried to do, when you don't have a dynamic forward, people are going to compare that to, for example, Maeda and Kyogo. I think it was Kyogo chased back and won the ball, might have been Maeda, to intercept it from Tom Lawrence before Celtic went up the pitch and scored that goal, that Callum McGregor goal. That's a big contrast as well, and I think that comes down to Rangers squad build and the type of players they have available. Now, if you look at who they've recruited this summer, a player like Chefty or Connor Barron, I think they are recruiting younger players who are more dynamic and can kind of deal with the type of pace that the Celtic might have that Rangers haven't been able to previously. But I do think that lesson's not been learned as a valid criticism. What is Clement trying to do? Again, we can speak about this at more length. His first 20 games in the league, I think he won 18 of them, and the only games he didn't win was the 2-1 Old Firm defeat at Christmas time, in which Rangers, I thought, were slightly unlucky. It wasn't as one-sided a game as, for example, this Sunday was, and then that 1-1 draw with Aberdeen. At the start, we saw his football be quite direct and pragmatic, a lot of round square pegs and round holes, but it worked. Now, Clement raised the Ross County game after Sunday's defeat, and maybe wasn't the wisest time to talk
Absolutely
about it.
Not.
Yeah, not really reading the room. What is he trying to insinuate there? Are Rangers starting to look, before that Old Firm game, have you started to see a little bit more identity on the ball? I think so. Is there still questions? Yes. What is he trying to do overall? I would describe Clement's style of play as he wants to be vertical and direct and quick, and he's not as bothered about possession. He's not quite as fussed about territory or control as other Rangers are. Managers have been, maybe. The difficulty is, however, whatever his tactics, whatever his style looks like in domestic football, as Chris keeps coming back to, if you can't win an Old Firm game, that is no use, not only from a points basis, but you're now looking at 3 years since Rangers have won a meaningful Old Firm game in the league. And as we'll continue to come back to this morning, I do think his approach in Old Firm games merits questioning. But I don't know what you think, looking at it from your point of view. Did you feel like, again, the similarities with maybe how Rangers struggled with their man-marking system under Van Bronckhorst against Celtic? Because in my mind, and we broke this down in the piece, Adam and I are going to do a tactics podcast for those who can bear it on the game at some point later in the week. The very basic point, if you look at where Celtic's goals come from, it's all third-man combinations. So they know, okay, maybe in the first frame, Rangers are going to be marked up man for man, and they don't have a pass. The ball's with the centre-backs. The difficulty for me, as I put it back to you, is as soon as the first pass is played and Celtic know they're going to the third man, they know that they're trying to lull Rangers into a false sense of security before you play through. As soon as one man is free, then the whole thing kind of crumbles, if you know what I mean, because the next man's got to come off their man, and then that creates a free pass for Celtic. And that's something in this Old Firm game that we have seen before under a different manager.
Yep, it's all well and good, but that's the point that sort of caught my attention. Gon Rouge says, bottom line is, Josh, our players are not fit and not willing to run their socks off. We have a team of lazy players. Simple. Hard to argue with that, given what we witnessed on Sunday. I think it's all well and good having a game plan and an idea of what you're looking to do in these fixtures, but if you're not willing to run the hard yards and run more and give everything on that pitch, then you're in for a hiding, as what turned out to be. We've seen it at the weekend. It was obvious for all to see that the effort levels were nowhere near what they were from the Celtic players. Even look at that first goal, Joshua, when Maeda, Tavernier's about a good fair few yards ahead of Maeda. He's caught on his heels. He's got no idea where he is. And how he's got ahead of him to score that goal is criminal, really. That is totally unacceptable.
Yeah, and there was a moment later in the half where Tavernier actually blocked Maeda's shot, and he did check his shoulder. He still didn't get close enough to him, and he did manage to block it. Whether he's just in the right place, right time, I don't know. But if you watch the lead up to that first goal, he's obviously anticipating that Proper will get it, and Proper does slip, and you know, he should be the one who clears it at the front post. But then, as you say, he's not watching his man, he's watching the ball. But on effort levels overall, I think very clearly what you saw is for the first 10 minutes, and there was some videos circulating on Twitter of Rangers centre-backs having the ball and not progressing it forward. For me, that wasn't the issue, because if you looked at what Rangers were trying to do, they're trying to draw them in and play, because they don't have the same ability to take the tempo of the game on the ball that you see with Celtic. Look, if you watch that game back, and we cover this in the piece, for the first 10 minutes, Rangers are really high and aggressive from goal kicks. And what that does is it means that if you look at the kind of structure of the game, it's Rangers who are running forwards, right? It's Rangers who are running forward the whole time. Celtic are more on their heels. That only lasts for 10 minutes, because as soon as Kyogo scores that offside goal, it's as if Rangers want to sit off. And then you play in that horrible middle zone. When you're man marking, I don't think it works at all. Again, if you're aggressive and you're on the front foot, then maybe you can get away with it. When Rangers have had some success, I think come closer to getting a result against Celtic under Michael Beale, they were zonal, and that means basically just they weren't pulled apart as much by other players' runs. So what you saw, I think, in stark contrast between the teams, Celtic had real confidence in what they were doing. And again, once Rangers dropped that line, once they weren't pressing high from goal kicks, and Celtic then were able to get the ball up the pitch a little bit easier, they took total control of the game. And similarly, Rangers stopped kind of drawing Celtic out, as you're just identifying there, going a little bit more direct. And then you're not able to get up the pitch, because Dessers is up against two centre-backs. He's really isolated. And at the best of times, he's not a hold-up player, is he? He's not someone who's going to get you up the pitch single-handedly. He's not someone who's going to maybe drop in and give you an extra passing option to create an overload to get up the pitch. Then Rangers get pinned back in, and not only does that stop them from attacking, but it doesn't give them that kind of break from Celtic pressure, which eventually made it 2-0 before half-time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole combination of things why Rangers were so poor at the weekend, but I think it's a legitimate concern supporters have about what they're trying. I mean, if you could see what the manager's trying to do in matches, then you can go with it for the time being, because you can see something. But at this moment in time, it's it's hard. It's very hard being a Rangers fan. There's no doubt about it. There's interesting points that are coming in here. This is one from Homer, and it speaks of mentality more than anything else, Joshua. When that offside goal is ruled out, Rangers have had a number of goals ruled out in Old Firm games, and it seems to galvanise Celtic. Their offside goal seemed to galvanise them when it should have been the other way about. Homer with a point. Instead of being given a warning, we capitulate after a goal given offside. That tells me the mentality of the players is weak, and for me, they're absolutely petrified of Celtic, especially going to Parkhead. They have it. They're beaten in the tunnel before they come out for me, and that is a big worry.
Yeah, I don't think you. Again, if you compare the two teams, they're definitely and you understand it from Celtic's record, was it of the last 16, I think they've won 11. Rangers have only won 2, but one of those was when the league was done, and that's important to caveat because there's not pressure riding on that game. Rangers haven't won an Old Firm game in 90 minutes since that Helander header, which is now over 3 years ago. So, of course, there is a complete inferiority complex, I think you can identify in this fixture at the moment, where Rangers players probably, and there's new Rangers players in there at the moment as well, but they probably don't believe they can go and get a result. And the comment's right, because for me, it's so stark. If you look at, if people want to go back and watch the first 12, 13 minutes of the game, if they're bored, they probably won't want to. But what you watch the first 10 minutes of that game and how high and aggressive Rangers are, and they actually get a few opportunities out of it.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many parallels in this fixture. I feel like I'm always repeating myself after an Old Firm game. But the 3-2 game that Rangers lost under Michael Beale, again, if you watch the first 10 minutes of that fixture, Ryan Kent goes through and goal, Alfredo Morelos has a chance, and Rangers just aren't able to capitalise. And Celtic probably play a little bit in the knowledge that, okay, we can afford to give up a few openings. If you take the Matondo chance, the header, now he might have been offside, but he shouldn't have been offside, and he should have still scored probably from that opportunity, at least hit the target. If you look at how Rangers created that chance, they held the ball, took the sting out of the game, moved the ball up the pitch, probably 25, 30 passes, and obviously go close to opening the scoring. They approached the next goal kick again, high and aggressive, trying to match Celtic on either side. Celtic used one of these third-man passing combinations to get out, so they just have a little bit more time at the touchline. Johnson does really well up against Barron. Barron's your number 6, and again, because you're man for man, instead of protecting the zone in front of the defence, he's going up and being really aggressive, which we'll come back to in the lead up to Kyogo's goal, because again, that's an important distinction between the way that Rangers defend the space now compared to maybe some previous managers. Johnson gets the ball, and instead of playing it into Callum McGregor, and you can see Diomande, who I think the criticism of him has been a bit over the top because he had so much work to do in there. Diomande is man marking Callum McGregor, but he gets a little bit of a run on him because he knows the ball's going to Hatate, for McGregor to then become the third man. He gets the ball in space in front of the Rangers defence. That's why I think man marking over a 90-minute game against Celtic, we've just seen it not work time and time again, because it might work 8, 9 occasions out of 10. It doesn't really, but you know what I mean? It could work all these times, but you're then reacting to your opponents, because Celtic are a better team in possession than Rangers are out of possession, if you know what I mean. I think Celtic know their roles and how to get out of pressure better than Rangers do to keep them in there. And then that leads to that leads to the offside goal. From there, I totally agree. I think if you look at the next goal kick, Rangers sit right off. Whether that's an instruction from the sideline, I don't know, because I wasn't looking at the sideline, or whether it's a decision that's taken on the pitch. That then gives Celtic the ascendancy. So as much as any mentality question, maybe the doubt just creeped into Rangers' mind. Can we afford to leave this much space at the back? But then simultaneously, what that does is it gives Celtic the control in the build-up. It means they can have possession unopposed and the rotations to unmark themselves eventually, be it from a throw-in, created the space necessary for them to go and open the scoring.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I do urge you to go and check the piece out. It's on the website, and the link is in the description below this video, folks. A few points I wanted to flag up, and I'm going to get absolute pelters for this, Joshua. I do not care. Joe with the point says, read that number 6. I'd love us to look into the free market. Rangers have failed. We're linked to a number of number 6s in the transfer window. We're linked to bring someone in. They haven't. So my suggestion is, and this is, I guess, how bad a situation Rangers find themselves in. Ryan Jack is a free agent. Why not bring him back in a pay-as-you-play deal? He's twiddling his thumbs. I know he's kept himself in shape over the course of the summer. Rangers need a number 6. Why not bring him back?
Well, yeah, I mean, he didn't play much last season, did he? Listen, Clement said last week in his press conference, and I don't know if people got that. I'll let people react.
They need someone in there.
Yeah, no, they do. And
short-term deal.
Yeah, Clement said in his press conference last week he didn't rule out looking for a free agent. He didn't rule out looking for a free agent in the number 6 position, which tells you in and of itself he really wanted one this summer, and he needed one. Now, has Connor Barron done well since he came into Rangers? Yes. But he's not played as a number 6 in the high possession team over the course of the whole season. So is it fair to ask him to do that consistently? Dujon Sterling, I think he struggled a little bit in midfield. There's been people who have been less keen on him in midfield at points, and I thought that game was a little bit of a vindication, not because of his individual quality, but because I just didn't think the game suited him as much. And at right back, the game's in front of him more. Is he a number 6 who's going to turn and get on the ball? Is he a number 6 who's going to be the most comfortable player in possession? Don't get me wrong. Is he a really technical player? Yes, you watch him carry the ball out wide and he could play in any single position. But I would be tempted to play him at right back more often than not on the back of that performance at the weekend. I think in midfield he has played well. It's not to totally disclude that, but you look at the performance at Tavernier, I think the next Old Firm game, that the right back slot is as key for Sterling to play as in midfield. Behind that, you got Nico Raskin, who's played as a deep line midfielder under Beale at points. But now, can he play that number 6 position? I think he can. The worry that I would have about that, and again, this comes down to the fact that Raskin was recruited for a different style of play. Now, can he play under Clement? Yes, but he's not. I don't think Raskin's the greatest passer in the world, and I think often when he's in that number 6 position, and Barron has this to a degree, you need to kind of know when to speed up or slow down the game. You need to take responsibility for that. And for me, too often Raskin kind of rushes things and he wants to play forwards quickly. And the reason I have that opinion is we did a piece with his former manager at Standard Liège almost 2 years ago now when he signed, and he gave some really interesting insight into his game, effectively saying for the temperament of player he is, he needs to be the kind of second number 6, the one who can go higher, the one who can link play. And ultimately, I think Raskin's a better ball carrier than he is a passer. Now, he's someone who I've probably defended more than others, because I think you saw in that first 6 months, he can be a really effective player. He can be a really effective player off the ball. But again, when he was fit last season, Clement didn't pick him as that number 6, which is pretty telling. He's rarely played there under Clement. So I'm not sure I agree with your solution to the problem, but I do agree there is a problem.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, I mean, let him walk out the door and understand the frustration that he wasn't available for Rangers last season. Is on the treatment table more often than we would like him to be. But you let him go, you expect to bring in a proper number 6. Lundstrom left as well. I know that Barron came in, Joshua, but I think we weren't expecting him to play every game, were we? So I think it's important Rangers try and bring a bit of experience in there. We know they were trying to add a player in that position, but they haven't done so just yet. There are free agents out there, some quality free agents as well. So it remains to be seen if they'll look to strengthen in that area. But yeah, it's certainly an area of the pitch I would like to see Rangers bolster the options, I've got to say. Jack Butland was speaking after the game then. It was he was speaking in the press conference. It was embargo that was released yesterday. Had a few interesting things to say, Joshua, on the result. He was speaking about his own performance. He says, "I'm pleased with my performance. You never enjoy conceding goals. You always look back at everything. I looked at my position on the second one. I think I'm in a position which is suitable for where we were at in the game. Being in possession of the ball and giving the ball away, I'm trying to get back to my optimal position where I want to be in that moment. And perhaps a little bit, I didn't quite get back to where I wanted to get ideally. I analyse things. I look at things. Am I happy with everything else I did? Am I happy with how I supported the team? Am I happy with how I supported from behind and helped the team build up? Yes. But at the end of the day, we've not got the result we wanted. And if that's something I need to look at, I will do, as the rest of the squad will do." So that's what he had to say about his performance. And that second goal has come in for a bit of criticism. I think he's probably fairly come in for criticism for the first goal as well. Should he save that, do you reckon, also? And I've seen a lot of fans saying, how can you be pleased with your performance when you conceded 3 goals?
Yeah, I've not actually watched it, so you never know what the tone of the question is. You know, people read a lot into press conferences, and understandably so, but often they can become a little bit, as you know, Derek, what would you say? Become a little bit kind of follow a script, don't they? It's not always just like an open conversation. Players are often trying to, toe a certain line or get out a certain message. Was Butland at fault? Let's focus on the second. Yes, he was. He was out of position. But let's get to why. The post shot expected goals, which is a bit of a complicated stat, but effectively once the shot has been taken, based on the quality of the shot, based on the position of the goalkeeper, and et cetera, it was 0.26, a 26% chance of going in if Butland's in his optimal position. So he should save it. Where I have sympathy for him is he did help Rangers build up well, again, in those first 10 minutes. There was a pass he played to Tavernier with his left foot. I don't think it was in the lead up. I think it was when Sterling then got the ball in a position and he didn't really carry it forward that effectively. And Rangers had escaped the press, but didn't really get up the pitch, if you know what I mean. So Butland did have an important role to play there. And again, if you look at the lead up to Celtic's second goal, Butland is behind Suter. He's in the right-hand side of his goal. Now, does he expect Rangers to lose the ball from the position they're in and concede a shot within that number of seconds? No, probably not. I think the Rangers defence probably also thinks that Butland's going to save a shot from there, if you know what I mean. Because if you look at Rangers fullbacks are really high. The reason they're really high is they're trying to keep Celtic's 4-4-2 press deep so that they can have a 3v2 at the top of the pitch. And that's why you saw Proper and Suter and Butland playing a lot of passes with Hatate and Kyogo chasing the ball. So I don't think it's so much the fullbacks are out of position. I just think it's the risk of the way that Rangers build up. If they're really high and wide, if they're splitting their centre-backs really wide, you need dynamic players in that position to recover the space. That again comes down to team selection. The only time this man-for-man big space approach has worked against Celtic is when you've had Calvin Bassey, who was an absolute cheat code and could effectively play two positions at centre-back to jump up and stop opportunities like that. If he's in that game, if he's in that situation, he probably has the ability to get up to Kyogo quickly. Robin Proper can't, because if you look at the game back, he's got Nicholas Kuhn over his left shoulder, and Jefty has been high and wide again, because that's the instruction for how Rangers want to build up. So it is a catalogue of errors. It's probably, again, it comes down to the setup, and rightly you can criticise the setup. If Rangers are going to be so high and wide in this position, they are going to concede opportunities. I think Barron's pass is slightly short. I think Cherney's playing slightly on his heels, and he too frequently moved on his left-hand side instead of going on the right, and that made him a little bit predictable in the game. So there's a whole catalogue of errors, and equally then Rangers, if you're in that position, if you're thinking Kyogo was a shot from 25 yards, you'd expect Butland to save it as well. So I don't think Butland is the only one to make a mistake in that situation, but very clearly he did make a mistake, and the frustration for him will be he's conceded a few shots from outside the box in Old Firm games. We're going to take a little bit of a closer look at his form and the numbers underneath it, because I think it's slightly unfair on him to a degree, because he hasn't been great since that England call-up. He also had really carried Rangers at points before that, so there's probably, from his point of view, a little bit of there'll be a little bit of frustration about that as well. But we'll take a little bit of a closer look at that on the website over the next couple of days. I don't know what you have made of his performances overall at the moment.
Well, I spoke to Chris about this yesterday, and I raised the question: should Liam Kelly be knocking on the manager's door and asking for an opportunity? And I know a lot of fans would like to see him given that chance. Whether he's good enough, it remains to be seen. He was good enough for Rangers to acquire him from Motherwell, and I think he's got every right to say, here, Gaffer, give us an opportunity between the sticks, because I don't think Butland has been anywhere near the level of goalkeeper we have seen since he joined last season. I think, rightly, you say, Joshua, that England call-up when Gareth Southgate was at Ibrox for that 3-3 draw. We all expected him to be part of the four goalkeepers that England called up prior to the Euros. He wasn't, and I don't know if that's affected him or whether it's more of a wider issue, the Rangers defence, which is a bomb scare at the moment. It really is. It's dreadful. So he is exposed at times, but there's no doubt about it. He's not playing well, and he's not the only one, of course, but there are players that will be looking for opportunities going forward, I am sure, in the coming games.
I just think, I just think it's if you're a keeper, and I don't know, because I'm not a goalkeeper, but I'd imagine that all these dynamics around the Rangers team don't help, because you've had players who've been in form and carrying the team for certain periods of last season. So Dessers has a really good purple patch, then he misses that chance away at Ross County, or Butland has a good purple patch, but he makes mistakes in certain games last season. Then all these circumstances around you, whether it be, okay, you don't have the centre-backs to get up and close down that shot, or you're in a certain position for the build-up, or there's some tactical questions, they all don't help. So it just becomes one of these situations where, does Butland deserve a criticism for individual performances? Yeah, of course he does, because he's made mistakes, but the overall picture isn't probably conducive at the moment, or hasn't been, to him playing himself back into form. So this is why I think Rangers are in the situation they're in. They need a number of leaders on the pitch, and a number of players who are able to turn games and grab the game by the scruff of the neck, is one of my least favourite football cliches. But what I would translate it to is just take responsibility, and take responsibility. Be brave on the ball, and know how to go and get a result. And players like Butland have probably, I think, suffered a little bit from being one of the few who can do that. So then when they do have poor games and they do make mistakes, rightly they're going to be criticised. But probably what he's trying to, I would suggest, get across in that press conference answer is there's more than this than meets the eye. There is a wider context. But of course, to caveat that, although that word should be banned. I know it is an individual error.
I've never
isn't
used
it?
caveat as much since John
I know.
Bennett's interview. I think it's been overused. We'll try and think of new words, but yeah, absolutely.
He does need to get back to form, and he does need to, as we'll write in this piece, we're looking at his numbers. He has not been in nearly as good form since March, and Rangers need him to get back to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we need a lot of players to get back to previous form. So, yeah, a lot to stew on, of course, but fascinating show as ever. Big thanks to you all for tuning in. Just a heads up, and the Rangers Review Extra channel, I'm sure you've seen a little bit of content to cheer us up somewhat. Nadim Bajrami, I spoke to an Albanian football expert who gave us a lowdown on what we can expect from him. So do go and check it out. Really excited about seeing him in action. It seems like a player that will get bums off seats, and certainly someone that Rangers have been crying out for. So do go and check it out. I think you and Adam are recording a show sometime this week. Joshua, is that right?
Yes, we will be. We will look a little bit. We'll get some graphs up and look at the game in detail. So if people like that type of thing, it will be live on Wednesday or Thursday. But we do this every week now, and just we are looking at. Sometimes we'll take individual players, and we spoke about Chefty a couple of weeks ago, who I thought was probably one of Rangers. Didn't have a brilliant game, but I thought he was probably one of the Rangers players who did okay in the circumstance on Sunday. Spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. We'll speak about other individual players. So if people want us to cover individual topics, let us know. But this week we're going to look effectively at Clement's approach in Old Firm games. Why is he doing it? What's not working? How can it work against the Celtic team? And how can Rangers have some hope of getting an Old Firm result in the January Old Firm? But we'll approach that latter point, I think, at a later date.
Yeah, Stevie and Chris will also be back with their show, new show, that The Talking Point. It's been greatly received as well at some point this week. So it may be an international break, but plenty of Rangers content to come your way. Right, I'll be back again tomorrow. In fact, I'll be on a Q&A actually this afternoon. I'm getting Ali Bain on, so I'll pop out the link as ever on the community page on YouTube. Folks, get your questions in. I'm sure we're going to be inundated, and we'll get through as many of them as we possibly can. We kick off at 1 p.m. UK time, so hopefully you can join us for that. If I don't speak to you then, enjoy your Tuesday. Bye for now.